think the work-life balance thing is nonsense. It kind of implies that work is suffering and life is relief, and that just means you're in a bad situation to begin with, and you need to get out of that situation where you control your own life.
I think a lot of people, I've definitely heard that sort of like the only I don't like I like playing video games all day long. How do I make well obviously Twitch. So there's a pretty easy answer to that one if that really is your answer. But I think most people, um, yeah, I do think even if you if the, I think basically I think instead of thinking about it like work-life balance, I think the work thing throws everyone off. I think about it personally like creation versus consumption or like contribution versus consumption. And I think everybody, even the people who consume, generally you find that you like a certain kind of art or a movie or book, or you like working out or whatever. And like I think it's figuring out how do you turn this into a how can you do this thing, but instead of consuming the thing as your relationship with it, you are able to create value and you're able to contribute to other people in this vertical or this dimension.
Yeah, and on the work-life balance thing, if if you feel the need, I mean, not to get myself in trouble, but if you feel like you need to pursue work-life balance, you are not in a work that is going to lead to great creative outcomes or building this sort of business. Like, I mean, it's definitely something you're obsessed with, right? I can't imagine wanting to sit around and watch a Netflix series instead of thinking more about the stuff that I'm working on or stuff that I'm doing. And it just seems like such a bizarre waste of time to me. And that's not to say that if you're watching Netflix, that's a bad thing, or that you like some people want to live a different kind of life, and that's fine. I'm not saying anything about that. But this particular like we talk about authenticity, we talk about being like mastering something. Like you don't you obsess about it. It's like your life. And I just had this moment last week where I had an unbelievably busy week. I got to Friday night and I was like so pleased. I was so satisfied just because I had felt like it had been such a great week. I made progress in lots of places, and that my life felt very, very in balance at that particular moment in time.
Since Ben is about to get canceled, I'll get canceled with him too. I agree. I think the work-life balance thing is nonsense. It kind of implies that work is suffering and life is relief, and that just means you're in a bad situation to begin with, and you need to get out of that situation where you control your own life. I've been as guilty as anyone of watching Netflix and playing video games, but that was escapism from suffering. And once I sort of aligned my life with doing what I wanted to do, then I just did that for fun. And then when I don't want to do that anymore, I don't need to do high mental or high cognition activities like playing video games. I can just go for a walk, or I can hang out with my friends, or I can hang out with my kids, and it's just as fulfilling. Your work should be fun. It takes just as much effort to do well at a video game as it does to start a company. Somebody on the internet used a phrase that really stuck with me. I think he goes by Illimitable Man or something, one of these inspiration accounts. But he said that video games are shadow careers. And when I read that, at that moment, I knew video games were leaving my life because it was absolutely spot on right. I was building a career, except I was building a career in some fake land, in some fake game where the rules would change, where some 12-year-old would come along and crush me the next week. And I saw it for what it was. It was a shadow career because I wasn't putting that same effort into my main career because my main career didn't really line up with what I wanted to do. And that's why I knew I needed to make a change. So don't waste your life in these shadow careers. Even if you find yourself craving holidays, that means that you're not enjoying every day, that you're sort of like robbing yourself of what should be a pretty good day. Even like, and I know this is an extreme example, but you eventually want to get to a point where you don't look down on Mondays. You don't dread Mondays. Mondays are no worse or better than any other day. And so that means like kind of getting away from this idea of work-life balance. It's rather getting into a mode of work where that is your life and is fulfilling. It's good work. You enjoy it. You have to align, again, to use the old Robert Frost phrase, align your vocation and your avocation.
Yeah, and not to double down on getting canceled, but it's easy to look at today. Naval and I are doing well, and like, oh, it's easy for you to say, but like I started Stratechery while working another full time job, and what I mean by that is I found it like this is the part where it does pay off to do something you love. I loved tech. I love thinking about tech. I love writing about tech, and so it was actually a form like my work life balance. My work was kind of drudgerous, but my life was actually what I was really obsessed about. And so that was a place where I was able to align the idea of doing what I loved in my free time. and it was able to transform in the wrong way my work. I believe me, I feel very, very fortunate about that. But this isn't an incompatible idea where if your work is drudgerous, that's actually all the more opportunity to figure out what it is you love. Because if you love it, you're not going to feel like, oh, now I'm doing 2 jobs. You're like, oh, I have my work during the day, and now I get to go home and do the stuff that I'm excited about. That's actually an indicator of something that you might be worth spending more time on.
What has to be understood is that where greatness comes from, it's a very murky affair. It is nonlinear. It is unpredictable. Perhaps nature and the universe set it up this way, that you have to jump in. And once you jump in the soup and you're being bombarded through all sides and you live in confusion and you have no idea which way is up, if the obsession is there, then what happens is through some messy process, you find a way. You see light at the end of the tunnel. You forge a path through the jungle. That was not done according to a how. You were flailing the entire time. So there was no how to flail. When you come out through the tunnel and someone asks you how you did it, you have no idea. The thing that's almost laughable is when you ask a great athlete, can you show me how you did that? They won't come on and say, I have no idea. They will provide you with some semblance of an answer, which is a non-answer. And then what they will do is, because there's a gun pointed to their head and their back's against a wall, they will create the highlights. When the human being who watches that follows the highlights, he misses. And the reason that he misses is because it's all the small things.
I've found business biographies to be useless for building a great business. They're good for inspiration. I can read Steve Jobs' bio and be inspired, but I can't be Steve Jobs. And if I want to be amazing at something, then I have to find my own way there. For mechanical things, how-tos work. But when you're trying to operate at the top of a field, or when you're trying to do something creative, how-tos don't work beyond the most extreme basics. When you're first starting something, it is actually a mechanical endeavor. You're just figuring out how to drive a car. But when you're trying to figure out how to race it around a track faster than anyone else, then all coaches and techniques and prescriptions have to fall by the wayside, and you are at the edge of the art.